The champagne glasses clinked around her like tiny bells of exclusion. Sarah Chen sat at table 12, the one tucked behind a decorative column where the DJ's speakers created a convenient blind spot. She smoothed down her second-hand emerald dress for the 100th time, watching couples drift onto the dance floor in perfect pairs. Her sister's wedding was everything romantic movies promised: a twinkling lights, flowing champagne, love thick in the air, and Sarah had never felt more alone in her entire life. She checked her phone. The babysitter had sent a photo of Mia sleeping peacefully, her 4-year-old daughter's face relaxed in dreams. Sarah's chest tightened with that familiar ache, the one that lived somewhere between love and loneliness. This was supposed to be a celebration, yet here she sat, the single mom at a wedding full of couples, feeling like a mathematical error in an otherwise perfect equation. Is this seat taken? Sarah looked up to find a man in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit standing beside the empty chair. He had kind eyes, the sort that crinkled at the corners, and an easy smile that seemed genuine rather than polite. "It's all yours," she said, gesturing to the collection of empty seats around her. "Plenty of room at the island of misfit wedding guests." He laughed, a warm sound that cut through the background noise. "Marcus Bennett," he said, extending his hand. "Sarah Chen." His handshake was firm but gentle. She noticed he wasn't wearing a wedding ring, and immediately felt foolish for looking. Marcus settled into the chair beside her rather than across from her, angling himself so they could talk without shouting over the music. "So what lands someone at table 12? I'm here because I'm the groom's college roommate who lives 3 states away and knows exactly no one else at this wedding." Sarah found herself smiling despite her mood. "Bride's sister. But I came alone, so I think they weren't sure where to put me in the couple-centric seating arrangement." Ah, understanding flickered across his features. "The dreaded singles table that isn't actually labeled as such but might as well be." "Exactly." Sarah took a sip of her water, grateful for someone who understood. "It's fine, really. I'm used to it." Something in her tone must have revealed more than she intended because Marcus's expression softened. Before he could respond, Sarah's cousin Jennifer appeared at their table, her smile sharp as broken glass. "Sarah, there you are, hiding in the corner. We were wondering if you'd show up at all." Jennifer's eyes swept over Marcus with obvious interest before returning to Sarah. "No date again? I guess it's hard to find time for romance when you're a single mom. Where's little Mia tonight?" The words landed like calculated strikes. Sarah felt her face flush. "She's with the sitter. She's a bit young for a wedding reception." Of course, Jennifer's tone dripped with false sympathy. "Well, don't be a stranger. There are some lovely people here if you just mingle instead of sitting alone." She drifted away in a cloud of expensive perfume, leaving silence in her wake. Sarah stared at her plate, willing herself not to cry. She'd known this would happen. Family gatherings always brought out the pitying looks, the pointed questions about her dating life, the subtle implications that she was somehow incomplete without a partner. "That was remarkably unpleasant," Marcus said quietly. Sarah laughed, but it came out shaky. "Welcome to my life. Single parent, working 2 jobs, living with my parents because I can't afford my own place yet. I'm basically every cautionary tale your mother warned you about." "Funny," Marcus said, his voice thoughtful. "All I see is someone who showed up for her sister's wedding despite probably being exhausted, who's raising a child, holding down 2 jobs, and still manages to smile. That seems pretty remarkable to me." Before Sarah could respond, the MC's voice boomed across the reception hall. "Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our couples dance. Grab your partners and head to the floor for this special moment." Sarah's stomach sank. Of course, another reminder of what she didn't have. Then Marcus leaned closer, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "I know we just met, and this is going to sound strange, but would you let me help you tonight?" She blinked at him, confused. "Pretend I'm your husband tonight," he continued, his eyes earnest. "Just for this evening. No more pitying looks. No more awkward questions. Let me be the buffer between you and all of this. He gestured vaguely at the reception. You deserve to enjoy your sister's wedding without feeling like you're on display. Sarah's first instinct was to refuse. She didn't need rescuing. She'd been handling everything alone for 4 years. So since Mia's father had walked away during the pregnancy, she'd learned to be strong, independent, to need no one. But something in Marcus's expression stopped her. This wasn't pity, it was kindness, offered freely, expecting nothing in return. Why would you do that? She whispered. Marcus was quiet for a moment, his gaze drifting to the dance floor. My mum raised me alone after my dad left. I watched her sit alone at events, saw how people treated her like she was broken instead of brave. I wished, even as a kid, that someone would just be kind to her without making it a thing. He looked back at Sarah. So let me be that person for you tonight. No strings, no expectations, just kindness. Tears pricked Sarah's eyes, but this time they weren't from hurt. Okay, she heard herself say. Marcus stood and offered his hand, a slow smile spreading across his face. Then may I have this dance, my dear wife? Sarah took his hand, and suddenly she was being led onto the dance floor among all the other couples. Marcus's hand settled respectfully at her waist, and they began to sway to the music. She could feel eyes on them. Jennifer's surprised stare, her mother's raised eyebrows, her sister's delighted grin. Thank you, Sarah murmured. The pleasure is entirely mine, Marcus replied. As the evening progressed, Marcus played his role with convincing ease. He brought her champagne, laughed at her jokes, and seamlessly deflected invasive questions from relatives. When her uncle asked how they'd met, Marcus spun a story about a coffee shop collision that sounded so genuine Sarah almost believed it herself. When her mother pulled her aside, eyes wide with confusion, Sarah simply said, "I'll explain later," and returned to Marcus's side. But the real magic happened in the quiet moments between the performance. During dinner, Marcus asked about Maya, and not in the pitying way people have usually did, but with genuine interest. Sarah found herself showing him photos, sharing stories about her daughter's obsession with dinosaurs and her habit of singing made-up songs about their cat. She sounds incredible, Marcus said, studying a photo of Mia covered in finger paint, grinning with pure joy. She is, Sarah agreed, her voice soft with love. She's everything. What do you do for work? Marcus asked. Sarah hesitated. This was usually where people's interest waned. I'm a medical billing clerk during the day, and 3 nights a week I work the late shift at a diner. I'm saving up so Mia and I can get our own apartment. I want her to have her own room. You know, right now we're sharing a room at my parents' house. What do you want to do? Marcus asked. If you could do anything? No one had asked her that in years. Sarah felt something unlock in her chest. I used to love graphic design, went to school for it, actually, before Mia came along. I still do little projects sometimes, late at night when she's sleeping. Logos for friends, small businesses, that sort of thing. It's silly. It's not silly, Marcus interrupted gently. It's a dream. Those matter. The reception wore on, and somehow, impossibly, Sarah found herself having fun. Real, genuine fun. She danced until her feet hurt, laughed until her cheeks ached, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel like the odd one out. She felt seen. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Marcus walked Sarah to her car. The parking lot was quiet, lit by soft yellow lights that made everything feel suspended in time. Thank you, Sarah said, and this time the words carried the weight of everything she couldn't quite articulate. Tonight was. You gave me a gift I didn't know I needed. Marcus reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a business card. Marcus Bennett, CEO, Bennett Creative Solutions, it read, with a phone number and email below. Sarah's eyes widened. CEO? We're a mid-sized marketing and design firm, Marcus said. And we're actually looking for a talented graphic designer. Our creative director just went on maternity leave, and we need someone who can bring fresh perspective. He pressed the card into her hand. Send me your portfolio. No promises, but I'd like to see your work. I can't accept this because you feel sorry for me, Sarah said, even as help fluttered dangerously in her chest. I'm not offering it because I feel sorry for you, Marcus said firmly. I'm offering it because tonight I met someone who juggles 2 jobs and single parenthood and still shows up for the people she loves. That's the kind of dedication and character I want in my company. The kindness I showed you tonight, that's just paying forward what I wish someone had done for my mom. But this, he tapped the business card. This is business. Send me your portfolio. If you're good and I suspect you area, the job is yours if you want it. Sarah looked down at the card, then back up at Marcus. Why are you doing all of this? Because kindness doesn't cost me anything, but it might change everything for you, Marcus said simply. And because too many people think success means climbing alone. Real success is reaching back and pulling others up with you. 3 months later, Sarah sat at her new desk at Bennett Creative Solutions, looking out over the city skyline. Mia's latest drawing, a family portrait featuring Mommy, me, and Mr. Marcuse, was tacked to her bulletin board. The apartment they just moved into wasn't fancy, but it had 2 bedrooms, and Mia had cried with joy when she saw her very own room. Marcus had kept his word. The portfolio she'd nervously submitted had impressed the hiring team, and the job had materialized into reality. The salary was more than both her previous jobs combined. For the first time in 4 years, Sarah could breathe without counting every penny. But more than that, she'd gained something she hadn't expected, a friend. Marcus checked in regularly, always respectful of boundaries, never pushing for more than friendship. He'd met Mia, who'd immediately declared him the nice man who makes Mummy smile. And sometimes they'd grab coffee, 3 unlikely friends brought together by one night of unexpected kindness. Sarah had learned that Marcus's mother had passed away 2 years ago, and that his act of kindness at the wedding had been as much about honoring her memory as helping Sarah. She learned that true generosity asks nothing in return, and that sometimes the right person appears exactly when you need them most, and not as a romantic savior, but as a reminder that goodness still exists in the world. One evening, as Sarah tucked Mia into bed in their new apartment, her daughter looked up at her with serious eyes. Mommy, are we going to be okay now? Sarah thought about the wedding, about Marcus's whispered offer, about the chain of kindness that had transformed her life. Yes, sweetheart, she said, kissing Mia's forehead. We're going to be more than okay. And for the first time in a very long time, Sarah believed it. Because sometimes salvation doesn't come from romance or rescue. Sometimes it comes from one person deciding to be kind, expecting nothing, and changing everything.